Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is that you are tuning into this show. I am glad that you are here and I'm excited for you all to get to listen to this incredible conversation. In this episode of the Will Carr Speaks podcast, I have my dear friends, Horse and Cassandra, on to talk about some of the very key principles that they go through in their work that they do in their life and relationship coaching and just helping people understand themselves better. They've coined this term called nutritional listening. Previously, we've referred to it as things like sacred listening, but it's this concept around what does it really mean to listen? And I think that's something that we all need to reflect on a bit, whether it be in our relationships with a romantic partner, maybe with our parents, our children, friends of ours, or just people that we interact with in our community. Maybe even someone that we run into at Walmart that we'll never even see again. What does it mean to really listen? What does it mean to understand people? What does it mean to hear where people are coming from? So rather than respond, rather than react in a way that is maybe not us coming from our most authentic, best centered place, how can we respond in a way that is truly authentic and brings forth the best outcome in every situation that we possibly can be in? And so that's what we sit down and talk about in this interview, in this discussion, whatever you want to call it. I've had many conversations with Horse and Cassandra, so I don't even know what to call it at this point. But this one that we finally recorded was amazing. And I'm just excited to be able to put it out there because the things that I have learned from them personally have helped me in my life to be able to communicate with everyone that I interact with, because so much of communication is about understanding where other people are coming from and not getting pulled in to the emotional aspects that are so common to come up in every aspect of our life. And everyone out there listening, I know that has to resonate for you. If it doesn't, I don't understand what life you could possibly be living where you don't have anyone that you interact with, or you've never interacted with anyone that makes you feel tight in your chest or makes you feel unsettled or possibly makes you feel some type of way where you haven't reacted or behaved or responded in a way that you feel like was the best way you could in that moment. And so these conversations that I have had and that I continue to have with Horse and Cassandra just ultimately, I feel, help me to be a better person and help me to understand who I want to be and how I want to interact in the world. It's helped me be a better father. It's helped me be a better son to my parents, and it's definitely helped me be a better friend with some of my closest friends. And I feel like even just in the random interactions that I have and that we all have in our day to day, it has helped me be able to stay centered, stay grounded in what really matters, and be able to come out as my best self. So that way, the outcomes of conversation and interactions are always the best they can possibly be. And that doesn't mean we're perfect. That doesn't mean I don't still sometimes get mad or frustrated or, might. Um, you know, threaten my daughter no dessert if you don't do your homework or something. But it in general, these types of principles that we discuss in this conversation are genuinely life changing. So I'm excited for you guys to listen to this. I think you're going to get a lot of value from this conversation. And with that said, thanks for tuning in. I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Will Carr Speaks podcast. I love doing these shows, and today I have two very incredible guests and two good friends and people that I'm really excited to talk to. We've got Horse and Cassandra. They live in Fairplay, Iowa, and they do a lot of different things as far as helping people find themselves, find their voice, understand how to listen and be in positive and productive relationships. I know I'm not doing it near enough justice. So with that, I just want to dive in and yeah, have you guys kind of introduce yourself and talk about what you do and get the conversation started.
I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I speak a lot about healthy environments and um, healthy choices. What does your home look like? Your work environment, your relationships? How are you relating to other people and what's around you? But I've found over the years that when people are experiencing issues and it's manifested in the body, then something has actually happened outside of the body that's made its way in because it's kind of the higher self or your consciousness saying, hey, there's this thing that we've never really completely paid attention to. And it's buried in our cellular memory, and now is really time to look at it. But I personally did not know how to examine that, and even if I could tell how that became a problem to begin with, I didn't know how to unroot it. So I really was looking for a partner in my business that could say, okay, this is what the issue is, but we can also work on letting that go so that people weren't having to consistently come back over and over, and that there was just one time that we're together and that person can make a different choice and it doesn't take very long. So this is why we decided that we call this nutritional listening, is because each thing in interaction and communication we have in our life provides something. It can either provide vitality or toxicity, and that can be within our relationships. Say we have a partner or we work for someone in that relationship, your mother, your sister, but also yourself. And how can that manifest in the body when there's a unhealthy connection there?
Yeah. And I would say almost probably the majority of unhealthy relationships start with an unhealthy relationship with yourself. Would you say that that's true?
I would say that there's a lot of ignorance to begin with. And a lot of times taught by our parents and our family and our peers what is healthy. And then as we go along, we learn that, you know what, actually that's not the way to communicate, or that's not the way to engage in this relationship. And that is actually taking away from my energy and my vitality, or I am doing that to someone else. Certainly, I've been there so many times in my life where I'm like, I really just kind of shit on that person's carpet right now, energetically, and need to figure out a way to clean it up. So I would say that yes, unhealthy relationship with self. And also, it really is just a learning process of letting go of what we thought was okay and what seemed good and healthy at the time.
Yeah. And so when you're helping people with this, are you typically doing like one-on-one sessions or is it mostly in groups? Like kind of walk me through like what this nutritional listening experience looks like.
Sure. I would say that there's a lot of options for people to experience, and you can have anything from a one-on-one session that typically takes about an hour and a half to joining a 6 month or a year-long program. So, for someone that's really looking for sustainable change, there's so much information and a lot of unwinding from our previous beliefs and our lives before we stepped into this program, of really learning how to listen and embody our higher calling, our higher self more, is that it takes a while. There's a sustained period of time that it takes to really learn, hear the language multiple times over and over, and then to be able to assimilate that and actually integrate it in your life. It is a longer process at times. However, the actual kind of ahas or the unbinding of, say, an old experience that had some compressed energy in your muscle tissue, or say your hip area, whatever that looks like. Maybe you had an experience and you just didn't fully process it, or it felt uncomfortable at the time and you just stuffed it, then that can literally just take mere moments to minutes. And so, what I like to suggest is that if you're really interested in changing your life and changing all of your relationships, particularly with yourself, that you do and join in a program so that it's more sustainable and you're with a group of people where you're all in that consciousness of you're wanting to embody and learn, and then you're all in that same energy together, and the learning process in that way is much more elevated than if you were on your own.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I could even speak from, personal experience myself. Like so much of what we struggle with and these unconscious decisions that we make come from suppressed events or emotions that we just ultimately never wanted to deal with, right? And it's like sticking your head in the sand, trying to pretend like things that happened never happened, or you never trying to just pretend things away, like this idea that we can manifest through pretending. I think that's such a misconception that people often talk about these days. It's like, well, just pretend that this is the way your life is. And if you fake it until you make it, but that's not really the truth. And that doesn't seem to work. I mean, I'm sure you see people that, are trying to go about it that route and failing miserably.
My comment on that is that there's a lot of programs out there. There's so many wonderful things available that you can embark on. There's a trillion books out there, self-development, right? How to better yourself. How do you improve your listening and your communication? However, it's really all just something that you're surface level experiencing. You're not actually embarking in that entirely. You're not embodying the teachings. You don't really have someone who's guiding you through each event, making sure, for an example, you're not re-traumatizing yourself. This isn't about any sort of re-traumatizing or going back into the experience. It's just simply moving the energy through. And I feel like there's a lot of us who are trying to do these more elevated, and even I'll use the word spiritual kind of components, but they're leaving the body and they're bypassing, and they're either up in their head or they're way out in outer space and they're not actually experiencing it within their physical body. And that's missing the point. You have to body and live and feel what's happening and being taught in the experience in order for a change to happen, because we're human, we're physical beings. And so, and to just escape, which we often do, which makes another point that a lot of times when we have a unpleasant experience or up to a trauma, we've left our body in order to be safe. So this really teaches you to come back in and let go.
I'm gonna ask you a question now then, because you and I have had some great conversations in the past, and we've talked about things like what it really means to listen. And so before I go on a tangent about that, I want to hear from your words, like, what does it really mean to listen?
That is the most powerful question you will ever ask yourself in your entire life. There is no greater question than that. And to approach it as a question rather than an answer puts you on a path that most people will never take. I mean, we try to make things so complex. We try to make things, you have to have this education, you have to have this experience, you have to have not that had that experience, you had to, all of these hads. But the truth of the matter is that if you approach your life every single day, well, asking yourself that question in the moment, what does it really mean to listen right here? Because the truth of the matter is, listening has nothing to do with you. We have
Listening
been
has
brought up.
nothing to do with you.
No, no. If I listen to you and I understand you 100%, something goes off in your psychological development that says, matter, this person witnessed me. This person understands me. But what we do is we collect data, we hear data, and then we have expectation of the other person doing exactly what we want them to do or not do. So when we say, do you understand me? It really is, are you willing to run my script and become that person in my narrative? But
Mm.
when you're just sitting back and you're witnessing somebody and you drop into that silence, you drop into that witnessing, there's no judgment, there's no opinion, you escape time, and you know that person on an intimate level that most people will never ever get to. And as soon as we start to listen, then we calculate our risk of whether or not we'll get what we want over what somebody else will get. And we stop listening and we start hearing and data collecting and get triggered by old traumas and all that other stuff. But it's really simple. It's not difficult. The challenge is that many of us have never been brought up to actually listen. When you're sitting with your
Yeah.
daughter and you have that moment that brings a tear to your eye, and you know that moment will never be replaced. She'll never be that age again. She'll never have that day again. And you feel that warmth in your heart. You feel what it's like to love your daughter as her father, and she feels it. What's more important than that? Honestly, more important than that? Nothing. That's listening.
So, yeah. So if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly,
You're perception
the way I
checking
would
that.
reflect on If I'm listening well, what I hear you saying is that really listening is about being present, and not just present, but in a way where we're not attached to our own expectations or our own wants or desires. True listening is being present in a way where we have stepped outside of our own conditions to be able to truly not just understand someone, but really like know where they're coming from and what they're experiencing.
We've been taught, at least in most of us in the United States, and that's not to put United States down. I just don't know what other countries do, right? But in the United States, we're taught to gather data and call that hearing or listening. There are books, be an effective listener, be a good listener. And everybody says, you know what? I really know how to listen. And then you're around them and you watch them and they don't listen at all. They don't listen at all. You have to know yourself and you have to have no need from another person. You have to be able to be self-sustainable, generate your own energy to actually listen to another person. Otherwise, what we're doing is we're just passing back energy back and forth that is either compatible or not compatible, and we're creating an entanglement of stimulation, and we call that a relation. That's
Yeah,
not a relationship.
right.
So when I say
No, it's
listening has nothing to do with the person listening, right? When you
yeah,
drop to that and you understand that, what happens energetically is you're creating this energetic bubble that's happening between you and the other person. And it's 50% you and 50% me, and we're meeting in the middle of that energy. But as soon as somebody stops listening, all of a sudden that energy is either more into your circle or more into my circle, and it creates either codependency or it creates enabling and the stabilization of that energy. So if we get beyond our ears, if we get beyond our understanding and we look at it as an energetic force, then that means you could sit with your daughter for a half hour, 5 minutes, and there would be no conversation. There'd be no utterances. There'd be no body language, no performances, and you still would be able to listen.
yeah, yeah.
Have you actually had anybody listen to you? In what opinion?
That's a good question too, man. I would like to think that I have. It's how do you know? How do you know if someone is really listening to you? And let me paraphrase that, or not paraphrase, let me prephrase that with I'm kind of getting, I think I understand what it means for me to truly know if I'm listening. So I think I have a decent understanding at this point to know if I'm listening, whether that be with my daughter, friends, or family. But how do we really know if other people are truly listening to us?
Your perception check. How do you know, Will, that someone's actually listening to you? Your perception check. So, what in the past have you done that you know that you were listening?
I would say the way I feel in my body, do I know that I'm in a calm state where I'm present and truly focused on them, and not necessarily even focused on what they're saying, but focused on how they're being while they say it? And do I feel an actual like emotional connection to the words that I'm hearing? Those would be the first two things that come to my mind.
So, I'll go from the last thing you said to the first thing. The last thing you said was you'd have an emotional connection. So, you know that you're listening when there's an emotional connection?
Yeah, and I guess to speak on what I mean by that would just be I know that I'm listening. I feel if I feel what they're speaking to me. So it's like, do I think that I'm feeling their intent? Or do I think that I'm feeling the what's behind their words? Because often we speak words, but what is our emotion behind those words, or what is our thoughts behind those words? So I feel like I know I'm really listening if I feel that emotion behind what they're saying, because they could be saying something as simple as, how's your day today? Well, my day was fine. But like, okay, was your day really fine? Because you might be like, well, my day was fine. And I might feel like, oh, there's something there, like something happened to you today that is not fine. And that's very different than like if I say, how was your day today? And someone's like, my day was awesome, man. Like, let me tell you. But even with something like that, it's like, okay, well, I know there's probably something that happened to them today that was really cool. So I guess I feel like I know that I'm listening if I can, because it's not just the words that they say, right? There's always something deeper than just the words that are being said.
Yeah. What if that had a nutritional value?
Yeah. Why don't we just have nutrition? Why is this not just on our forehead?
And
I'd
where
make it
people
really easy.
Yeah. So, and where people are coming from, what kind of nutritional value does it have? And is it toxic? Is it something that benefits you? And what do you do with it? And then in that
Mhm.
conversation that's 5 minutes long, was that person sharing in the immediate with you, or were they reporting back what they did and they're standing in that time frame of what they did? You could tell a story about what happened last Tuesday and still be fully present with you, Will. Or you could tell that story about what happened to you last Tuesday and you're just someone bouncing that energy off of, and they just want to hear their own voice.
Yeah.
So, in order to listen, that impact that you have, it doesn't matter if they're telling you what happened on Tuesday and they're present or they're not. You're so in tune with them that you'll understand that either, yes, it matters that I'm sitting in front of you, or you could go get a cardboard cutout of me and once you start telling a story, you're not in your body and you're back there. And what's the contribution there? So when you have two people that are listening to one another, there's no cardboard cutouts. There's a space and time that's created. And when we create these circles, well, I'm from Minnesota, right? And so a long time ago, about 15 years ago, we started some of these things there. And we created what families would call a nutritional listening environment in their home. And some families got rid of their TV, put it in another area. And they practice daily with their family, practicing what is listening. And how they did it was no matter what age the kids were, or no matter what type of family it was, they'd say, do we even know what listening is? Just like you just did. And that's how they began their conversation. What is listening? And how will we know if each one of us achieves it today in this 20-minute deal that we're sitting in? And they went in that
Mm.
environment, and that was it. That was the rules that they practiced really learning how to listen. And some families had big houses and they were able to pick out a certain room, and others were living in a one-bedroom studio, and they would take a rope out and they would wrap it around in a circle and they'd step inside and they'd say, this is our listening circle, and they would practice. Those families operated differently on a day-to-day basis, going through some of the most challenging things. And we know these things kind of work because in the past, and you know this, and we're not going to get into it, but you know that Cassandra and I have worked with, families that have dealt with school shootings and trauma and all kinds of things. We worked in hospitals during COVID trying to help them. And every time we went back to how important it is to be in the present and listening.
Yeah.
Even if you don't achieve listening all the time, if you're asking yourself that question and everyone else is asking that question, that in itself slows things down.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of it is about slowing things down, isn't it? Like, I will say that that is one thing that is very apparent to me when I have conversations with you all is how I just slow down.
That's because we're in Iowa now, there, Will. That's why. No, it is because the
Hey, I
energy.
grew up in Illinois. I know what it's like.
We love Iowa, but the energy demands it.
Yeah.
Because when we
Yeah.
start to listen, and it takes a while to get in sync and to forget about what happened 5 minutes ago and all those things. But when we start listening in that way, our hearts will start, even though that you're in Colorado, the beat of our heart will change. The oxygen content change. And the comfort level pauses and silence will change.
Well, if you think about it, when you are in a responsive and responding condition, when you're communicating with someone, you're in a very neutral, kind of flatline environment. You're holding space for each other. But when you are reacting, it kind of starts as this mini tornado inside. And then the further you go with emotions, it gets bigger, 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 bigger. And then, before you know it, you're in a hurricane and some sort of argument and
Yeah.
conflict. It really is. It really is a lot about being within the space that's before you and in that moment. I know in the moment is used a lot, a lot in different realms lately, but it really is just being present, and there is that slowness and just having that almost like it's the two of you together, you are communicating. And by two of you, that could be your dog. You know, it could be the tree in your backyard that you love, but whatever that is in the world around just almost disappears.
Here's a riddle for you. Ready for a riddle?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, here's the riddle. The deeper the level, and keep in mind, this is something that I learned and studied with elders from around the world, First Nation people in Minnesota. This is something that is on my background, okay? But they would ask me this question as a young man. You'd say, here's a riddle. The riddle is the more that you learn how to listen and silence your brain, your mind, your body, the louder the world gets. The more that you learn to go into stillness, the more that you go into deeper levels of silence and listening, the louder the world gets. When it gets so loud, you'll go from a non-reactionary condition to react just to survive.
Yeah. I wanna
I mean,
dive into that some more. Like, the difference between reacting versus responding.
so you walk into a house and you are on a certain level of data collecting, hearing, or maybe even a little bit of listening, and you're able to function at that level through emotional intelligence and your intellect and psychological development and energy that you're reading and all those things. And that's how you live your life. Then you go on a spiritual quest, let's say, and you learn how to silence your mind more. And you come back to the city, and now the city is even louder, and you're more reactionary. Because I've seen this a lot. People will say, "Horse, I'm more reactionary now than I ever was. This has done me damage. Like I can feel people's energy so bad that it's done me damage." And I'll say, "No, it has always been that way. You're just realizing what's happened. Nothing is
Yeah,
in
you just notice it. You're aware of it now.
right. So now you jump into something for $7.99, right? And you're certified and you're ready to go out and earn money because you got your certificate, you got your scripts, you got all those things, right? And you have really good intention. Don't get me wrong, you have really good intention, but you're not prepared to listen on that level to so many people and their energy. And inside you, it trips off a child kind of consciousness within you. It trips off your teenage kind of consciousness within, adult kind of consciousness, your social standings, your facial mask, all those things. And pretty soon you're back to not listening again. And people will say, I don't really know when I'm reacting or when I'm responding. And I'll say, that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. And then
Because when you
they'll, yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
No, please.
Well, I was gonna say, when you're reacting, I think the difference is, like, you know when you're responding. You don't necessarily know when you're reacting. So, that's how you know. Yes or no? You have a different opinion on that?
Throw in the water or is it not in the water? Do you see how easy it would be if I said, "I'm sorry, I was in a reactionary condition. I didn't know I was reacting." What if someone said that to you and you said, "Oh, it's okay." You're grooming that other person in the relationship to react all the time.
Yeah.
But what if you say,
You're giving
"It's okay, but I don't wanna be in a relationship with you anymore." I study body
I
language and
mean,
but your eyebrows just did it, everything else, right? It's like, "Oh, shit."
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true, man. Like, I will say from my own relationship experiences, it's very tough in that type of circumstance that you just described, because you almost have to take a no second chances approach with people. If you really want to be respected and you really want to respect yourself. And that's a tough situation, because sometimes you want to give people second chances, or sometimes it's like, well, there are good things to this relationship. So if someone can actually recognize mistakes that they made and be able to heal from those and not make those mistakes going forward, then you don't necessarily want to just take that very hard approach of no second chances.
Let me clarify what I'm
Yeah.
what I'm saying, okay? Here in
Okay.
Iowa, we have a beautiful house, big house, and we have a community living. So there's 2 women that live here. Cass is my wife, and there's another woman that lives here, Hope, and one of my best friends, Lawrence. So there's 4 of us constantly living with each other. We've lived with each other for over, let's say, well over 4 months, but let's just say it was only 4 months. Because we have that understanding and because we all agree to it. We don't buy into that bullshit about, "Oh, I didn't know I was react." And the 4 of us, with multiple kinds of relationships and different ways that we're here and out of the house, I don't think we've ever been in a reactionary condition that's lasted more than a minute, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have to call each other
Yeah.
on it.
There definitely a distinction between constant boundary crossing and saying, "Hey, man, I can do that way better. Can I try it again?"
Yeah.
And in escalation, everybody listening, this is your Uncle Horse here. Everybody listening, write this down. All reactionary conditions must seek a reactionary condition in order to survive. If you're the person that observes and listens, you will not react. And you will see that it'll either dissipate or that person will react upon themselves. They'll go into a fight or flight kind of thing, and they'll either try to pick a fight or they'll leave or they'll go internal and do it. And the whole time you can observe them and drink your cup of coffee and simply respond with, "Isn't that interesting?"
Mhm.
Then you can say, "We tried this a couple of times, and depending on, the value of it, is this something that you feel that you can get a hold of when you react?
Mm.
Yes or no?" And it's just yes or no. It's not, "Well, give me this." Is it yes or no? It is yes. Okay. And at what level do you want to say is acceptable in escalation of your reactionary condition? And you can interview her because this is my wife, right? And what level do you think is okay for an escalation and how long? So what's the intensity? And after the intensity, what's the duration? Well, it's a 10 for 10 minutes. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Not anymore, folks.
Because all that's gonna do is that's gonna fester and those cords are gonna go back and forth. When you have an emotion and that emotion is real, it lasts for about 2 minutes. But if you have a reactionary condition, it's not even your energy, it's a combination of your energy, or you're performing that emotion to get what you want or to have somebody else not get what they want. And you're not in the present
Mm.
moment and you're not listening. You're manifesting your life and you're demanifesting your life at the same time. And when you're
'Cause
listening,
oftentimes people are
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
well, yeah, I was just gonna say, oftentimes people are listening with the sole intention of like, they already know what they're gonna say next. Or I'm listening to you because I'm trying to make it seem like you're getting to say what you want to say, but really I'm already checked into what I'm about to say next. So it's not that I'm really even listening to what you're saying now. I'm already focused on what I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
And I think that's often a trap that people fall into.
yeah. And listening goes even beyond the ears. So when we talk about when people come here, they fly in from out of town and even in country, they fly in and they'll stay a little bit here at the house and they'll say, help us understand this energy thing. And I said, that's easy. You can do this with your daughter. You stand in front of her and you look at the different chakra points or your energy points, or you could just do your throat and say, do you feel that our throat, our voice is always compatible? Or do you feel that sometimes my voice hurts your ears as a 12-year-old, let's say? When you hear my voice and I hear your voice, is it compatible? And that child will tell you, yes, no, I like this, I don't like that. And what they're describing is the vibration and the energy that is either allowing that child to expand from their heart to their head and express themselves or retract it. Then you can go into whether your mother is living with you or not living with you. And it's not pointing fingers, but you can say, in your parents, between your mother and father, how do you feel about what they do with their throat, their voice? And that kid will tell you if it trusts you.
Mm. Mhm.
Then you can sit and you can breathe with them and you can say, and do you feel the heart, my energy from my heart connect with you? Do you feel that when we do that? And they'll tell you yes or no. So those are all
Crazy
levels
kids.
of listening. Now do that with a teenager. Now have a teenager come in your life. Let's say you have a teenage child and they'll be like, oh, hell no. No, that was cool when we were little, but no. But why do they do that? Because it's their job to
Yeah.
test you, to lie to you, and to figure out what their boundaries are going to be to learn their own self-regulation. So they're purposely now going to say, hey, Dad, I'm going to block that intuition that you have. And sometimes I'm going to open up my heart, and sometimes I'm not, because I'm trying to figure out all these different experiences. And then we go into adulthood and we play the same game back and forth. And you meet the woman across from you that you want to meet. We talk about this all the time. The woman across the fire that you want to meet, to be the life partner for you. and you have this intuition and you have all this beautiful energy. And then all of a sudden, you forget to take out the garbage. And you can tell living together, this person's not happy. But you're going to play it off like, oh, it's no big deal. And you know that it's not only about the garbage, it's about all the other things that you haven't done. And so you start blocking that energy. That whole intimate thing that happens during listening, you start blocking those. You start plugging in different areas in that body that works energetically that you control. They start doing the same thing with you. And pretty soon that intimacy just turns into a lead follow. You're either grabbing the cord and pulling somebody, or you're having somebody latch on you and taking them around.
Mhm.
But when you listen and you say, I am going to be 1000% responsible for my reaction rate conditions, and I'm going to stop letting myself off the hook. You put yourself on a whole nother path, and maybe you don't catch it. You're doing something for 10 minutes and you don't catch it. But if you keep working on it, you'll get down to a millisecond and say, yeah, I felt that one coming, and I decided to do it anyway. Are you telling me you've never been in a situation? You've never been in a situation, well, where you're like, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm going for it. Like, it's coming up, and I should suppress it, but fuck it.
Yeah, very good point. So we also, there are times we do know when we react. Yeah. Yep. Definitely been there where it's like, I know this is not smart, but I'm going to do it anyway.
So what if this is a possibility, and it's a probability in what we teach, okay? But what if you take a conscious effort of when you're like, I'm all the way to this point now, and I don't care anymore. But if I did that for every level of reaction, man, I couldn't get away with a lot of shit. So I'm going to pretend in my conscious mind that I don't know. Or I'm going to pretend in my conscious mind that I don't know so I can handle the fact that other people don't really honor my boundaries.
Why do you
What if
think it's so hard for people to Why do you think it's so hard for people to respect themselves enough to make sure their boundaries are respected, like to honor their own boundaries?
it's the entanglement? The entanglement has to feed. As soon as we see this all the time, we'll have a fire here on Friday. People that know each other, people that have never been here, and they all have kind of the same experience. Once they get here, there's a comfort level. As they stay here for that circle for 2 hours, you'll see people that are agitated and people that are not agitated. So let's say there's 10 people in the room. There's 5 people that are agitated. There's 5 people that are not agitated. That's an equal balance in the room. But now, when you have 5 people and 5 people, one of those people are going to say, do I feel more comfortable being agitated, or do I feel more comfortable being not agitated? Let's say the person that was agitated on the 5 says, there's 5 people in here and I don't want to be agitated anymore. I'm going to raise my energy. I'm going to be in the present moment more, and I'm going to go sit with them. Even though we're still in the same circle, my energy is going to be with them, interacting with them, and less with the people that are agitated. Does this make sense? So now you have 4 people that are agitated and 6 people that are not agitated. Yeah, so 6 people are not agitated, right? Those 4 people have to take on the same energy that 5 used to share. What are you hearing me say? Paraphrase me and give me an example so I know that you're understanding. Because it's not about listening now, it's about a shared meaning.
If I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is that by the person that chooses to then be in the non-agitated energy actually leaves the 4 people to then become more agitated themselves, because if there's an equal amount of agitated energy and it's only being divided between 4 people instead of 5 now, then those 4 people are going to have higher elevated agitated states of energy.
Right, right. They all have to maintain the same kind of vibrational frequency that used to be spread out over 5 people. Now there's 6 people in the room that are at a higher vibration. So in order to balance the room again that they feel comfortable in, because that's what they came into, those 4 now have to add a higher level of agitation, which now balances the room again because you still have it where everybody is happy and not happy. But what happens when another person of the 4 says, my day wasn't that bad, and these people were having a lot of fun. And if I just let go of my day, I could be here too. I am going to now be present with them. My heart rate is going to change. My breathing pattern is going to change. I'm going to feel more comfortable being in this room. And now that happens. And now how many people you got? You got 3 left.
Mhm.
Following me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's
So
say that again. Let's say it happens again, and you only have 2 people left. So now you got 2 people left holding the energy that used to be agitated
held
of the
by
5.
5.
Yep. Then the other person bails. You got 1 person left. 1 person that has the energy of 5 agitated people. You know what you have? You have the person that came to ruin the circle.
Thanksgiving.
You have that 1 person left that came to sabotage the circle.
Yeah.
That person will constantly be in a reactionary condition. That person will feed on reactionary conditions. That person will constantly try to create that. They'll listen in a way that's sympathetic. I'm listening to you and you hurt your toe. Oh, I feel so bad for you. What makes me cry, Will, that you hurt your toe? That must be awful. Do you know I hurt my toe too? I hurt my toe for a year instead of 10 minutes. And then I hurt my knee too, Will. I mean, God, geez, this really makes me sad, Will, that you hurt your toe. I feel so bad for you. That person is never going to change. I want to. So to go back to the original, how this started, all reactionary conditions must seek a reactionary condition. That person out of 10, only 1 left, 9 are happy. They are going to create a reactionary condition one more time to see if there's any way, or they're going to leave. They're going to pick a fight or they're going to leave. Now that's easy to look at when you talk about imaginary people and 10 people in a circle. But now look at your
Mhm.
now look at your family of origin, look at your past relationships, and it always plays out exactly the same way. Either you
It's
came into
true.
an environment, you came into the environment as a reaction. You know, you played a game and the game didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. You went to work, you did this or that. And instead of letting it go and be in the present moment, you now want to create a reactionary condition, either to express yourself or to have somebody understand where you're coming from, or that you don't want them to be that high in that energy. Now, witness that as a kid. Then, as a young child, you learn that a reactionary condition is a more powerful thing to wield whenever you want at whatever level than to actually listen.
And that is why people respond that way oftentimes is because it seems more powerful. Like when I've been in situations where I can clearly tell that people are in those reactionary states trying to do anything they can to seek further reactionary states from other people. That's why those people they constantly escalate it. Like it can start with something small, but they're those people that always take it up a notch. It's like, "Whoa, how did we even get here at this point?" And
Yeah.
it's because they don't know how else to be powerful. They're trying to get control of the situation through their strong reactions.
Yes. And they never leave. Do you understand that?
They never
Physically,
leave.
might leave. Yeah. Physically, they might leave. You have to remove them from your consciousness. You have to remove them from, this isn't going to work for me. And the only way you can remove it is to stop reacting because there's no payoff for it.
Yeah, there's no winning in that game.
No.
It's interesting to even see that dynamic playing out amongst kids. Like I see that with my daughter and some of her friends at times, like where, there might be a kid in the circle who, one of the kids does something cool or like, and I even had this conversation with my daughter the other day because we were talking about some of her different friends. And I was like, these friends, when things happen to you, do you notice that they cheer for you? That they're like, wow, that's awesome that you did that. And then do you notice that this other friend is more prone to that was something cool that you did. Well, here's something that I did that was even cooler. And so it's interesting even just trying to, bring that awareness into because kids are just learning that stuff from their own home environment. Like, that comes from 2 different home environments, one where others are encouraged, one where others are competition.
And what does encouragement mean? So I have an adopted grandfather, right? And that adopted grandfather would say, I'm going to acknowledge that you did good, but I'm not going to feed you. And I
Yeah.
said, what do you mean? And he'd say, if I feed you because you did good and you feel so much better because you're getting all this cheering, then you're going to jump around like a monkey until you get cheers.
Yeah. That's a good point too. So it
But
all comes back to balance. Like,
back to balance.
yeah.
If you're,
When
if
you
you're,
guys are doing these circles, When you guys are doing these circles at your house with people, do you see these dynamics playing out every
What do you think?
time?
What do you think?
Oh, emphatically every time. Absolutely. Yeah. So, because we have all stages of life present within us at all times, meaning there's that child aspect, there's that teenage aspect, the adult, as well as the elder. And it doesn't matter what our actual physical age is, how many years we've been on earth. It's all of these are playing out at the same time. So some can be future perspectives and some are current or past perspectives. So each person is going to be carrying that in the door, but then also, the aspects of their parents. So you'll have another four and then another four from dad, so mom, dad, and then you've got the grandparents. So it just is like this giant lineage that comes in and all these different ways of thinking and belief systems. And so, yes, we see it often all the time. And frankly, I could speak for myself. There are still occasions for myself. I'm noticing, shit, that was definitely just a shitty teenage thing right there. And I'm going to go ahead and say, can I have a mulligan on that one? My God.
Yeah.
So there was a session that we had here, maybe a year or so back, and the person was like, I've been going to a 6-month program here, and it was about the 4th month. And when we got to a certain point, he would always say, it's that thing that happened to me when I was 7 years old. Oh, okay. And he said, so that's why I do that. And I say, okay, you can leave. He said, what do you mean? I said, so you're doing this in your reactionary condition. Yep. And you haven't ever been able to change it your entire life. No. And you're reacting and being very disrespectful or even slightly disrespectful to somebody here. Yep. But it's because I get triggered. Okay. I'll accept that. Time for you to leave. And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean? And I said, you've been grooming people all your life. You've been grooming people all your life that this happened to you when you were 7 years old. And if that's real for you, that's okay. But in order for you to lash out and say that you can't control this and then ask me, do you want to be my friend? I'm going to say no. I have a lot of friends. Now, do I have compassion for you? Yes. And am I willing to work with you? But if you're going to jump into this every single time, you know what? When people talk this way and they open up the refrigerator, somebody dropped a ketchup bottle on my toe when I was 7 years old. And every time I see a refrigerator, I lose my shit. I'll be like, well, guess what? There's a lot of refrigerators, a lot of bottles of ketchup. And if you can't keep yourself from reacting, then that's something that this isn't for. This is not psychotherapy. This is about communication and how you're destroying your communication with your family and your loved ones. So, sure. And we work with people with complex PTSD and all these things. And they go, what? Yeah, 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 I get it. I get it. So are you willing to do something different? Yep. And it's like, all right, well, are you willing to let go of some of this? And I understand there's some deep trauma that happens for people, right? But I'm working with someone along the lines whose child was in a school shooting. As soon as after years and years and years, the question was, have you ever thought you could just give yourself permission to just give yourself permission to just go back and have a different life? Like, this is never going to change. How long do you want to keep up with this? It's sad. We agree all those things, but what do you really want? And he said, what I really want is just to give myself permission to move on with my life. But none of the other parents that I'm with have moved on. And so I've got to cut my
Mm,
ties too.
powerful.
And then he did. But that's no different than you. That's no different than every single person. When you start saying, well, I'm going to start looking at my life and my reactionary conditions, then I'm going to stop making excuses for myself. Well, then either I'm going to be with people that want to do the same thing, can do the same thing, or I'm not.
Mhm.
But we're supposed to feel so guilty
Yeah,
about that. We're supposed to be like, but everybody deserves a chance and all this other stuff. But you're in a reactionary condition if you do that.
yeah. Rather than being selfish with your energy, like it's good to be selfish with your energy. It's good to be selfish with your own well-being. It's good to
It's
be
good.
selfish with your own state of balance and harmony.
The funny thing is that
You can't.
I'm gonna cut you off for a minute here. A self-sustaining person of energy would never say they're selfish of their energy. They would say, I am self-sustaining.
Yeah.
I am self-actualized. I am self-sustaining. I take 100% responsibility for my accountability and my actions. And I don't leach into someone else's story or energy in order to sustain my own energy. And at the same I don't allow anybody to tap into my energy either. I think we talked about this when we were on the phone with each other earlier a couple of days ago. Do you know what most insecure people do? Most insecure people will find another insecure person to tell their story. Because if you tell a secure person the story, they'll say, I believe in you.
Yeah.
And they'll mean it. It
Yeah.
won't be an avoidance thing. It'll be like, I can understand you're insecure right now, and I'll spend time with you. I don't need to coach you. I don't need to tell you how to live your life. I believe in you, and I want to let you know I'm going to be so interesting to see how you resolve this for yourself because you have it inside yourself. Or you'll go to another insecure person and you'll say, by the way, my wife's not insecure. I'm so insecure. You're so insecure. Let's just bond together in our insecurities and let's talk about why we can't make coffee for each other. But a secure person will say, I'll make my own coffee.
Yeah.
And then the insecure person will say, why are you so selfish with your energy? When they really should be saying, I haven't learned how to be self-sustaining with my own, and I want some of yours. Or the other person should be saying, I'm so self-sustaining in my energy, I keep giving it away, hoping you're going to change. And that's where we get back to our original conversation. It's like, bye.
Mhm.
All reactionary conditions must seek a reactionary condition in order to exist. If there is no reactionary conditions inside the room with those people, everybody will be fully engaged in the present moment and it will be sustainable. It will be palpable. It will expand your energy. It will increase your vitality. And you'll also recognize when people aren't there.
It's easy to see all levels from the top of the skyscraper, right? It's easy to point out.
Oh, yeah.
Be the skyscraper and run the elevator inside and don't worry about the rest of the city.
Good analogy there.
When
The rest of the city does not even matter.
it doesn't. Look at your career, look at your life, look at you as a father. All those things that you've done, you figured them out. You might have asked for something, you might have listened to something, but you figured it out. You coach those kids in basketball. I watch your podcast. I watch what you're doing, and it's like ultimately at the end of the day, when you look back on your life, do you really want to live your life saying you lived it for someone else? I'm so proud that I got to live my life the way someone else wanted it. Or do you want to be self sustaining? Do you want to know that whether the chips are up or the chips are down, you can do it? And I'm biased. I used to be blind. I used to be in a motorized wheelchair. I used to have, you know, two different diseases that are incurable. So coming from that mentality of the world or the medical community saying no to me, I said no to them with a KNO. And what I said to them, well, was I'm my own skyscraper, and all I have to do is focus on the elevator no matter what happens. Whether this changes or not, physically, mentally, emotionally, how is that elevator up and down? How is that sustainable? So when we met, I was already there and I wasn't willing to give it up. But in the past, in my past life, I did it all the time to be in a relationship. Our first date together, we spent 36 hours with each other. We didn't go to a movie. We didn't go out and get entertainment. We sat and talked to one another, and it was so powerful. We spent 36 hours just getting to know each other. We refrained for sex for almost a year, just getting to know each other, the child, the teenager, the adult, the elder. And we did it on purpose because we had to grieve our previous relationships that were over 10 years
Mhm.
rather than recoiling into another relationship and assimilating the same relationship and bringing in all those problems because we knew we had to learn how to listen with one another. Fucking's easy. Listening's tough. You can quote me on that.
Yeah, we'll make sure that makes it in the shorts.
It's true though.
Yeah, yeah, very much, man. I mean, that's something that I've, think about and reflect on a lot now as I've been single, almost 2 years, I'll say. And, I'm coming to this place where I'm just so happy and content and fulfilled within myself. And it's like, I've recognized that so many of my past relationships, I have dealt with or put up with things and allowed myself to be miserable just because I wanted that just because I wanted to have sex, right? It was like, and I put up with all these things. And it's like, for why? And like, why did I think that was so important or such something that I needed like so much? Like, and then I can only imagine it's like you're telling that story of how, you guys just got to know each other so well. Like then when you have that physical intimacy, it's so much more powerful, like, because you really know that person and you've been able to heal past wounds and heal from your past relationships where now you're two people coming together as whole, complete people, not two fragmented people trying to create something whole with jagged edges.
You wanna talk about arrows in a relationship?
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, it took me quite a while to really understand. So, nutritional listening does have its own language, which can be a learning process in itself, understanding that. So, when we speak of arrows, we're talking about an energetic exchange that has a negative impact on someone or yourself. So he was speaking earlier into, if there's a chore, and I'm gonna say somebody didn't clean the cat box. Somebody he's in charge of the cat box. So if I know that this person has not cleaned the cat box, and I ask, "Hey, have you taken care of the cat box?" But what I'm really saying is, I know you didn't fucking clean the cat box. What say you? And I'm sending this energy, and my words are completely different, then that would be an energetic arrow. I have sent something in my communication that is nonverbal that is meant to impact this person in some way. And that can be, a little tiny spark of energy. It could be where somebody literally physically is 100% there. They're non-reactive, but internally they're raging or they're freaking out and yelling. And we see a lot of that too, where people feel like, I'm actually really pretty even keeled and non reactionary, but on the inside, they're a complete nightmare. And they don't realize that that is also reacting. It doesn't matter what your body is doing. It's like, what's your mind doing
I
right? And
know.
what's your internal dialogue doing? So that's a small example of what an arrow can be. What about you? And also, this was not a way for me to have a conversation about the cat box. On the radio right now as a couple. It's a really good example.
Man, come on, horse. Clean the cat box.
Yep. I'm glad that
Eee.
glad that I'm glad yeah, right? But I'm glad that this is an example, and I knew that this would come up, right? Because here's what it is. So now it's not about the cat box, it's about trust. Because in both our lives, in our relationship, we've had people that have made promises to us in our relationship, and they didn't follow through. So it's when someone is feeling that, it really is about more than just, today, this morning, the cat box didn't get cleaned, right? It's about, wait a minute, I'm building a life with you and I'm trusting you. And if you can't follow through on this, then where else am I supposed to be concerned? And it triggers past stuff where people might have gone through it, right? So let's go into this cat box thing, right? So now all of a sudden, and Cassandra didn't do this, but we'll play it out this way, right? Let's say she did send that energy to me where she's like, fuck you, didn't clean the cat box, right? It's not just about the cat box. It's about every man that has ever let her down in her entire life. And then it's about every single conversation she's ever had with another woman of the men that let them down. And that's all coming at me because it looks like I didn't clean the cat box. And it happens that fast that you walk through, you see that the cat box hasn't been cleaned or it doesn't look like it's been cleaned. And right away, we jump to a conclusion. This person lied to me. This person isn't paying enough attention. This person doesn't really care about my needs. And depending on how that escalates, it either stays within that person or it will repel back to other people that feel the same way in order to have the energy to defend yourself. And then it comes back through that person and it starts to attack the communication grid. So some people would be like, I can't even talk right now. My throat's closing off, or I'm yelling, or I'm screaming because it was an honest thing. It was a this, right? Or it's their head and they can't think, or it's their back, or it's their whatever. And once that seed is there until it expresses itself. And so now you're collecting all those seeds. So then I went back and I said, I thought I saw you like down on your hands and knees where the cat box was. And sometimes you say that you're going to take care of the cat box for me. And I honestly thought that you were doing that. And that's why I didn't go down and to check where the cat box was. And Cass says, "Oh, no, there was a stain on the floor, and I wanted to get that. I was over by the cat box." And then we'll say, "Well, do you understand that if you were in that situation and you saw somebody over there and they told you that you would be helping them every once in a while, how easy it would be to interpret, even though it was a misinterpretation, that the cat box was done?" And Cassandra, in our relationship, obviously said, "Yeah, Horace, I can see that." And she also didn't have to say, like, and she did have to do this in the past, and so did I. Like, man, I thought of every single person. I weaponized that thing to a missile, and I sent it right at you, and I didn't care. So remember how we talked about you get to that reactionary condition and you're like, fuck it, I don't care. That doesn't go away. That stays with that person. But when you do that, Will, you've got to go collect all that other energy from other people to kind of replenish the arsenal. So now people are reacting
Mm,
to you and you're getting angrier and angrier and you're building it up. So the next time you can throw it again because
mhm,
all reactionary conditions must seek a reactionary condition. And in order to do that, you have to store that reactionary condition inside you. Then you have this library of when I'm going to react, how much I'm going to react, what's the intensity of it, and what's the duration of it. And we call that a relationship until it's a divorce.
mm, mhm.
And even after the
Yeah,
divorce, it still exists, whether you have it or not.
yeah.
All started with the cat box.
And it all started with that cat
Mm.
box that you could have sat down with your best friend and say, "What's the scenario here? What's the scenario here? Did you forget?" "Yeah, I forgot." "What happened?" "Oh, I talked to a friend of mine and he was going through a hard time and I just blew it." And your best friend is going to say, "Okay, well, I'm just here to remind you. And is there anything you need?" Because you're way more important than the cat box. But we don't do that. We make it
What do
difficult.
you think makes it what do you think makes it harder for people? This is what's coming to me right now. Like, because you're talking about your best friend, and I think in that situation you're referring to like your partner as your best friend.
Yeah.
But the thing that came to my mind was like when I have disagreements with my best friends that are my guy friends or something, right? Like we might be like, dude, like WTF, like why did it like, or like whatever. And then but 2 minutes later, it's always resolved. It's
It's not.
really easy.
It's
It's
not.
no,
It's
it's
never.
not. We just
You store it, men store it, and they look at how they're gonna react to it somewhere else.
interesting.
It's not resolved. You'd be surprised how many times that happens, like, "Ah, we're guys, we're just gonna get over it. That's what we do. We wrestle, we're warriors," because it'll come out sideways. Because the man that's in the present moment right now still has that inner child in him, and the man that's in the present moment still has that teenager, and that teenager's like, "Oh, let's just pretend it's no big deal." But the other person inside is like, I sit in a men's group, and that men's group, they jab at each other every once in a while. They think it's funny, right? "Ah, we're just sarcastic bastards to each other. We're almost 80 years old. We get to do that." That's how we support each other. But I will see those men drop. I will see for the second that micro flash where they're like, wow, that really hurt. Like, I'm talking about something that really mattered to me, and someone made a joke. And we do that as men. We have harmful, we have helpful, and we have humorous, and most men have not a clue. So they go for the humor or they go for the helper, and they're always harming. And from an energetic standpoint, I can make this blank statement that, yeah, men don't it doesn't dissipate. It doesn't dissipate because it'll reveal itself again. It may not be with your best friend, but it will reveal itself again. It's festering, it's waiting. And I would also say when that happens, it's not even all yours. It's coming from somewhere else. It's those energy attachments, it's
Mm,
those entanglements. If you are that skyscraper in the city and someone reacts around you, your best friend or whatever, you're going to respond completely different. But as soon as you
yeah.
react, you're putting yourself in a magnetic field, you're putting yourself in a vibrational field that all of that goes into the collective, and you're now in an entanglement. And it's just waiting. Look at how fast we minimize that as men. Oh, men do this and men do that, and it's not a big deal. What if we start saying, actually, I didn't know I was seeding that anger. I was seeding that depression. I was seeding that sadness to actually be explored somewhere else that may not be safe or safe, but I won't do it here because this is my best friend.
It's a great point, man. Well, to wrap up with you guys, I want to ask you guys one final question.
Yeah,
And this is it's a generic, it's very generic, so you can go whatever direction you want with it. But I know you guys work with so many people from from severe traumas to non-severe to all types of relationship dynamics and everything across the board. So what is like the one thing that you like if you could only give someone one piece of advice on how to interact with others in the best way they can, and I'll just leave it at that. It was the one piece of advice if for people to be able to live the most fulfilled, satisfied life that they can in the way that they can interact in their relationships and communication with others, what would be the one focus point for people to become more conscious of?
Yeah. What would you say?
To not get a cat. But beyond that, I would say what I like to ask myself if I'm not sure how I'm being or communicating is, would I wanna be in relationship with myself right now?
Powerful question. Yeah.
And for me, I'm gonna answer it with a quick story because I'm a storyteller. So the other day, we're filling water upstairs. We leave the house. Water keeps running. Now it spills over. This was a dog story, not a cat story. And we have a roommate come home and said, "How long you guys been gone? Because the water's been running the whole time upstairs, and that dog dish just flooded your kitchen upstairs." And I go, "Been gone for 20 minutes or more." He said, "Well, I'm downstairs, and you're because we have a 3-level home, and where you guys stay, and your ceiling is raining right now. There's so much water that it's raining in your living room and dining room. That's how much water was running when I shut it off. And now it's seeping from the floor and it's now coming through the ceiling. And I have at least 13 buckets downstairs." And we said, "All right, we'll turn around." This calmly, by the way, we'll turn around, come in the house, all the buckets are going, and Cass expects me to be upset. And I look at my best friend and I say, "This is the most romantic experience I've had in a long time." There is a rain forest in our living room, and there are drums drumming. And will you dance with? And we slow dance with the rain pouring down from the ceiling and the drums coming from all the plastic buckets. And I say to her, "I love you. You're my best friend. And what a beautiful moment." That's listening. So when you can say, "Isn't this interesting?" No matter what situation. And what am I picking up on feelings and emotions, and are they mine? And when you decide they're yours, then make them yours. Choose to have those feelings and those thoughts. And if it's not, it's an expectation or it's something that happened in the past or something in the future, then admit it. This isn't even mine. And then choose what you're going to do next. Because I felt all of that. I felt my roommate thinking, "Oh, you're going to have to pay for this and do that." And I felt her past trauma about men that mistreated her when these things happen, or they took it out. And instead, and I meant it, it wasn't a strategy. We're alive today. I used to be in a motorized wheelchair. I can now stand up and I can slow dance with my wife. The ceiling can be fixed. I've ran the bathtub over. I've done stupid shit. You've done stupid shit. How many couples would have destroyed their relationship that would have seeded that moment they would never forget and would always come back to that and so much more?
Yeah.
But instead, in listening and manifesting and being a self-actualized man who's grown up, who doesn't give those excuses, I was able to create one of the most romantic experiences of my entire life with my partner. I want you to think about that.
Yeah. That is an incredible story, man, and I can't imagine a better way to close out this podcast. That just speaks to everything that we just discussed, I feel like, in the last hour and a half of what it means to be present, to listen, and to find the joy. Like you were able to turn an awful moment into an incredible moment. Like, talk about alchemy. Like, that was alchemizing at its
Yes.
finest. Wow. I love that. That gave me chills. Like, I don't get chills from stories much. That was beautiful. That was awesome. So, yeah. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you guys both so much for coming on my show and talking to me. I always love talking to you guys. You're both just incredible, amazing people, and you have so much to share and that people can learn from. So if people want to find you, like what's the best way to reach out to you guys if people are wanting to get involved with the nutritional hearing, the work that you do or your circles, like what's the best way for people to find you guys?
Website is great. It's sacredkitchens.org.
So Sacred Kitchens with an S.org, and that'll take you to our website. And we travel back and forth across the United States. We're in California. We're coming to Colorado. There's something that's coming up in Colorado here. And look us up and give us a call. But thank you. And thank you for everything that you're doing. And yeah, be the skyscraper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We love you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys so much. I'll link your guys' website in the description of the video for sure. So,
Okay.
yeah. Thanks
All
so
right.
much, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up.